You know, when a major crisis hits, we often think about the big picture, right? But the truth is, the toughest battles are often fought much closer to home, inside our own families. Today, we're going to explore how we can strengthen those connections, especially when the world feels like it's falling apart.
Okay, let's just dive right in with a number, a big one. 1.5 million. This comes from a 2015 manual about family support during conflict, and that single number, well, it tells you everything you need to know about the scale of the human crisis we're about to unpack.
So, what is that number? Well, by 2015, that's how many people in Ukraine had become what's known as internally displaced persons. And look, this isn't just a statistic. It's a massive shockwave hitting an entire society. It's the kind of thing that it shatters the very idea of family life as you know it.
So what does that term internally displaced person, or IDP, actually mean? It's a really important distinction to make. See, unlike a refugee, an IDP hasn't crossed an international border. They're still inside their own country, but they've been forced to flee their home. And that creates this whole unique, really complicated set of challenges.
And you have to understand, this kind of widespread displacement, its impact goes way beyond just the people who had to pack up and leave. It puts this incredible pressure on the entire social fabric.
Just look at the data from back then. It's a really stark picture. We're talking over 6,500 deaths, more than 16,000 wounded, and a staggering 5 million people living right there in the conflict zone. I mean, can you even imagine the level of constant stress and loss? It puts this unbelievable strain on everyone.
And here's something that really stands out when you look at who was most affected. A clear pattern starts to emerge. This wasn't something that hit everyone equally. Not at all. Two-thirds of the displaced adults were women, and almost a third of everyone forced to flee were kids. So it's pretty clear that the family unit itself was really taking the brunt of this whole thing.
Okay, so you have this huge pressure cooker of a situation on the outside. How does that, actually trickle down into what's happening inside the home? How does a huge national crisis become a deeply personal one?
Well, there's a pretty tough reality we have to face. That societal stress, it doesn't just stay out there. It has a way of seeping right under the front door and into our living rooms. All that tension and fear from the outside world, it can bubble up as more violence and more conflict right inside the family.
And this is the scary part. The impact doesn't just disappear when the conflict is over. The psychological wounds from this kind of trauma, they can echo for generations. It creates these devastating cycles that are just incredibly hard to break. Okay, so understanding the problem is one thing. That's the first step. But the real question, the important one, is what do we do about it? So let's shift gears now and move from the problem to the solutions.
Right. And when you're facing challenges that feel this big, it's so easy to feel completely powerless. But, and this is the hopeful part, psychology actually gives us a really clear and, most importantly, an actionable path forward. So the same ideas about psychological support from that 2015 manual, they're being echoed today in really practical advice for parents. What this tells us is that the healing process, it doesn't start in some government building. It starts right in our own living rooms, with our families, and especially with our teenagers, who are trying to figure out who they are on top of all this other chaos. So what we're going to do now is walk through 7 powerful but honestly really simple tools that psychologists recommend. These are keys to helping rebuild and strengthen those family bonds, particularly with teens. Okay, tip number 1, and this is a big one. Respect their personal space. For a teenager, having a space that's just theirs, even if it's just a corner of a room, is so important. In a world that feels totally chaotic and out of their control, it gives them this little island of responsibility and autonomy.
All right, number 2, we have to shift the balance of our conversations. I mean, think about it. How often do we listen, but we're really just waiting for our turn to talk? The goal here is active listening to actually understand. It's about showing you're genuinely interested in their world, not just waiting for a gap to jump in with your own thoughts. And just look at how simple these actions are, but man, their impact is huge. Making eye contact, asking a question to clarify something, and just letting them finish their thought without interrupting. These aren't some complicated psychological techniques, right? They're tiny gestures that send a massive message. I hear you. You matter. And that is the bedrock of trust.
Okay, our third key, empathy, not criticism. When a teenager is upset, what's our first instinct? A lot of the time, it's to jump in and try to fix it, or maybe even judge their reaction. But what they really, truly need in that moment is just to feel understood, to know that what they're feeling is okay.
Let's break this down. Criticism, it just builds walls. It immediately puts them on the defensive, and they shut down. But empathy? Empathy builds a bridge. It creates a safe space where they know it's okay to feel what they're feeling, and that opens the door for a real, honest conversation.
The last 4 keys really build on this same foundation. It starts with finding shared interests, just spending some quality time together. Then, having clear and fair rules. And this is important. Rules that you discuss together. It's not a dictatorship. Next up, honesty. And that means being able to admit when you're wrong. That builds so much trust. And finally, the small stuff. Just showing your love and care in little, consistent, everyday actions.
So let's bring it all back. How do these small, personal, everyday actions connect back to those huge societal challenges we started with? Because this is the most important piece of the whole puzzle.
Here it is. This is the big takeaway. Creating a sense of psychological safety in your own home, that's not you hiding from the world's problems. It is an active part of healing them. When we build resilient, connected families, we are, without a doubt, helping to build a more resilient community.
Because at the end of the day, when the world outside feels unstable, when it feels scary, the strength of those bonds we build inside our own homes, that's what provides the security, the stability, and the love our kids need more than anything. Those connections, they are their shield.
And that brings us to one last thought. Real change, real healing. It doesn't start with some huge, complicated plan. It starts with one small action, one single moment where you choose to connect. So the question I want to leave you with is this. What's one conversation you can start today to help make that shield just a little bit stronger?